Welcome back to the class, everyone. After 7 long years, I am very excited to announce we are getting Scout Trooper in game, and he looks really good. So as we just mentioned, we've got Scout Trooper now. We will be in the game here shortly, most likely as a marquee character. I'm not sure if that's entirely confirmed here, but that's definitely what it looks like. And I want to take a minute to talk a little bit of, not only about his kit, but the overall impact this is going to have on the game. And I just want to say this is overwhelmingly positive. Not only are we finally getting kind of a fan favorite character that's been out there for a while, he's been in the game as an NPC for a really long time. He has had some cool mechanics, but we've never even gotten to play with him. But not only is he going to come in and have some really fun functions for the raid, that of which we don't actually know that much about right now, but he's also going to help reinforce our current trooper squads, which weren't really bad, but they could use some help in some areas, and he's coming in to specifically help those, not just with the Imperial Remnant team, which he does have that tag, but also with Iden or maybe even Veer's troopers. So we're going to key in on a few things in his kit, but we're not going to read absolutely everything. So a few things to point out. They finally gave Moff Gideon his 5th character on his team. For those of you who are unaware, and I guess we can show this just briefly, Moff Gideon has this overly complicated lead that has just really weird requirements that was almost impossible to make happen in a good way up until now, because not only does he want Imperial troopers, which that part's not that hard, I guess, but they all have to match these specific faction tags where he has 2 attackers, 1 additional support, a tank, and it just makes the team really clunky. And quite honestly, this wasn't the biggest problem with Moff Gideon lead. The other biggest problem with Moff Gideon lead is the troopers were already better elsewhere, and quite frankly, so was Moff Gideon. That being said, Scout Trooper doesn't come in and necessarily kill this and make it completely irrelevant, but he does start to chip away at it with some other things that are going to be happening in this announcement. He is going to play a big part in the upcoming raid. He will also have a raid Omicron, which has not been released yet, which I'm perfectly fine with. We don't really know the mechanics of the raid at all. It doesn't help us that much to know what the Omicron would do, unless they wanted us to use it in Heroic Sith or something weird like that. And they make it pretty clear that he can be used in any Imperial Trooper team, but he's going to eventually be meant for a new Moff Gideon. And I'm guessing this is a Season 3 Beskar Moff Gideon that is going to be coming to the game, probably as a legendary character. That part has yet to be confirmed. He's also a Galactic Legend Leia requirement, which I don't know if I love that. It's fine. I'll take it. New characters are needed for Galactic Legends. It happens quite frequently, so whatever. And one of the other important things that happens in the kit that we haven't gotten to yet is he does have Irresistible Daze, which helps Iden a lot against Wampa. And this is actually a little bit impressive on the developer side. A lot of times we don't really think that they understand what counters are, what's actually happening in a game, what's important. And this is at least a small indicator that they know somewhat of what's going on. At least they can check battle statistics. Because yeah, Wampa is the budget counter for Iden, and he works pretty stinking well. And Irresistible Daze is a great way to stop that, because once Wampa gets dazed, he can't counterattack, and if he can't counterattack, he can't gain turn meter. If he can't take turn meter, he can't get his turns, put protection up, and he just dies. So overall, really solid kit build. Does not look very overpowered. It seems to be very much in line with that kind of typical non-name character, but good kit, sort of like how First Order Executioner was when he first came out. But his kit just has a lot of great stuff in here. He grants potency up, or sorry, Imperial Troopers gain potency up on his basic. At first seems kind of like nothing. It actually isn't that great, but you have to remember, under Veer's lead, you are getting turn meter per buff, so that can already makes him somewhat viable to plug in there. Imperial Remnant allies also get offense up, so if he's under Moff Gideon, this is another way to give Dark Trooper offense up, which is very nice. He does some fun things with accuracy up that I think we're going to end up seeing later. We don't need to get too much into that. Again, he doesn't have his actual Omicron ability right now. One thing he does do in his leadership, if the ally in the leader slot is Imperial Remnant and no other allies that use Emperor's Trap, aka Piet, the allied leader gains extra health and protection, and whenever an Imperial Trooper ally begins a turn or attacks at a turn, all Imperial Trooper allies gain a stack of Emperor's Trap. And for those, again, who are a little bit unfamiliar with Emperor's Trap, but they just kind of like to use troopers to blow stuff up, and it always works, that's awesome. But Emperor's Trap is one of the most useful things currently about troopers, where they're gaining 6% offense and potency per stack. This is one of the things that makes Dark Trooper just absolutely bonkers deadly. It's not just that he does good damage and has defense pen and hits 4 times. It is partially those things, but it's also that a lot of times by the time he finally gets to a turn, there's been so much attacking out of turn, there's like 20 stacks of that he's getting a massive offense boost that just lets him start one-shotting a lot of what would typically be very tanky characters. So yeah, Scout Trooper, he's coming in. He has one other important thing about him that isn't mentioned in there, but I think we need to point to, and it kind of was mentioned in there. Iden Versio, all of her kit specifically has callouts to it's so awkward, but if no other allies have the leader tag whenever a non-droid Imperial Trooper, basically I'll have to say, not only is Scout Trooper not a droid, which that part was super obvious, he also doesn't have the leader tag, which means he is going to be able to slot in the Iden Versio team, not only stop Wampa, but he's also not going to cause a plethora of other issues. One of the current strategies right now to stop Wampa with Iden is to put our good friend TIE Fighter pilot in there, and while that's nice that you stop Wampa, the counter starts to become susceptible to like everything else out there, because once you put basically an Imperial Trooper that doesn't meet all those qualifications, which our good friend TIE Fighter pilot is not Imperial Trooper at all, you lose all these bonuses. You don't gain 100% turn rate at the start, you aren't able to revive, you don't get a lot of these bonuses. So that part gets to be kept entirely intact. So Iden very well could move back to being a defense team where we start after using really weird, sketchy stuff like Padme-led Bad Batch or some type of weird BAM team that has Nest in it. I don't know. But either way, it's going to immediately move the needle in PvP, which is fantastic for people who are going to get him. And then on top of that, he's going to have some viability in the raid later down the line. And then one really interesting thing is, and we've already kind of made note of it, but they said that we are going to be also getting a future version of Gideon. So again, probably a Beskar Gideon. One of the things that I like about this is, and I've mentioned this for quite a while, I never really cared to get a 5th member of the Imperial Remnant. And the reason why is when we go and look at the faction, yes, it is a little weird and /sad to have only 4 characters in one faction when it's a 5v5 in typically almost all game modes. That being said, I never wanted a trooper here because Dark is very important in my Veers lineup. Gideon has like 5 homes. Death Trooper was really important in my Iden lineup. I guess a Stormtrooper can kind of be replaced by Shore Trooper in some instances, but he's still really good with Iden. That being said, if we're getting Scout now, we're getting a new version of Moff Gideon, assuming from, Season 3. We could also get another new Mandalorian Empire Super Commando with Beskar armor as well. And the Imperial Remnant team, maybe at the end of the day, just steal Stormtrooper and Moff Gideon, or maybe not even that. Maybe just steal Stormtrooper and Death Trooper, and Moff can go play, really Moff and Dark can go back and play with Veer. So I just really like what they're doing here. Again, this is continuing CG's model of trying to make sure that every single character has at least one home. Scout Trooper is not only coming in, is going to have multiple homes himself, but on top of that, he's going to start to breathe a little bit more life into characters and teams that, while aren't bad by any stretch of the imagination, are starting to fall a little bit off the meta. So overall, I'm really excited to see this. Number one, like I said, it's a fan favorite character, but I think as far as this kit goes, it's not only fairly simple, but on top of that, he's going to actually move the needle on some counters rather than just being one more character to collect where he's going to actually change some counters. So that is going to be it for today, guys. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay awesome.